This is PTCB Prep Guide.
So imagine a thief breaks into a pharmacy in the middle of the night, right?
Oh, happens more than you'd think.
Right. And they completely bypass the cash registers. They ignore all the expensive cosmetics at the front, and they head straight to the back counter. Like, what are they actually looking for?
Exactly. They know exactly what they want.
Yeah. And more importantly, how has the federal government forced pharmacies to completely rethink the way they hide that most dangerous inventory, to outsmart that exact thief?
It's a massive logistical puzzle.
It really is. So today, we are cracking open the vault. Welcome to episode 10 of our deep dive series for the channel PTCB Prep Guide.
Glad to be here for this one.
Yeah. Today, we are covering Domain 2, which is federal requirements, and specifically, we're diving into Chapter 2.2, Controlled Substance Prescriptions and DEA Schedules.
Which is, let's be real, it's the big one.
Oh, absolutely. I tell everyone this chapter is quite literally the heart of pharmacy law, because understanding these schedules, it isn't just about passing the exam.
No, not at all.
It's about staying within the law to protect your patients and, well, to protect the pharmacy's actual license.
Which you can lose very quickly if you mess this up.
Very quickly. So today, we are tackling all these really strict rules, but we're going to use simple analogies to help it all click. And real quick, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming chapters.
Good call. Because the stakes behind the pharmacy counter, especially when we talk about these specific medications, they are just incredibly high.
Yeah, high risk all around.
Right. You're dealing with this really intense fundamental tension between a patient's legitimate need for medical relief and then the very real, very dangerous risk of addiction and diversion.
Tension is the perfect word for it. It's risk versus access. And that's exactly why we're exploring what I like to call the rules of the vault.
I like that. The vault.
Because, when we talk about controlled substances, we aren't talking about your standard antibiotics or blood pressure meds just sitting out on the regular shelf.
Nobody's breaking in to steal lisinopril.
Exactly. We are talking about drugs that the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, monitors obsessively.
Obsessively is the right word. You really have to view the DEA as the pharmacy's security guards.
Security guards, okay.
Yeah, their entire mission is to know the location of every single pill that has any abuse potential, from the moment it leaves the manufacturing floor straight into the patient's hands.
That is a massive logistical nightmare.
It is. And to manage it, they don't treat every drug the same way. They use a very specific ranking system based on the actual risk level.
Which brings us to the schedules. They rank them from Schedule 1 down to Schedule 5. And this is super important for anyone taking the PTCE to remember it's an inverse scale.
Yes. Very counterintuitive for some people at first.
Right, because the lower the number, the higher the danger and the stricter the federal rules are.
Yep.
So if we start at the very peak of that restriction list, we've got Schedule 1 or CI.
Yeah.
And I like to think of these as the Outlaws.
The Outlaws. That perfectly captures their legal standing, honestly.
Yeah.
Because these are substances that the federal government has basically looked at and said, there is a very high abuse potential here and absolutely zero accepted medical use in the U.S.
Zero.
None. So we're talking about heroin, LSD, ecstasy, and this is a big one for federal law marijuana.
Which, honestly, that creates such a fascinating legal scenario for pharmacy techs right now. Because state laws are changing, constantly.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, under the federal umbrella of the DEA, it is still a Schedule 1 outlaw.
Right. And because there's no accepted federal medical use, a pharmacy tech is just never going to see a CI drug dispensed in a standard retail pharmacy.
Never. They exist completely outside the normal prescribing ecosystem.
So they aren't in the vault.
Exactly. Now, moving down the scale to Schedule 2, or CI, this is where pharmacy teams actually start interacting with the vault. These are what I call the heavy hitters.
The heavy hitters. Okay, so they still carry a severe risk, right? High abuse potential, high risk for severe physical or psychological dependence.
Massive risk, yes. But the critical distinction here, the thing that separates them from Schedule 1, is that these drugs do have highly accepted necessary medical uses.
Okay, so this is where that tension between risk and access really peaks.
Exactly. This category includes your really powerful opioid analgesics, oxycodone, which most people know is Percocet,
Right.
fentanyl, morphine, and it also includes those strong central nervous system stimulants like Adderall and Ritalin, which are, absolutely vital for treating ADHD.
Now, okay, I want to pause here because the storage requirements for these heavy hitters are Fascinating. And honestly, a little counterintuitive when you first read the text.
Oh, you mean the scattering rule?
Yes. So the regulations say that CT drugs must be kept in a securely locked safe, which, duh, of course, that's exactly what anyone would expect.
Right.
Or the law says they can be scattered throughout the regular, non-controlled pharmacy inventory to prevent theft. Wait, scattering them? I mean, if these are the most dangerous, highly targeted medications in the building, wouldn't putting them all in one giant, impenetrable safe just be better?
You would definitely think so. But putting them all in one giant safe actually creates a huge vulnerability. It basically creates a treasure chest.
A treasure chest. Oh, I see.
Yeah, because think about it. If a thief manages to compromise that single safe, or God forbid, they force the pharmacist to open it during an armed robbery.
Right, which happens.
They get everything. They gain access to the entire highly addictive inventory in one fell swoop.
Wow. Okay, that completely flips the perspective. A single safe is a single point of failure.
Exactly. So by allowing pharmacies to basically disperse the CTI medications alphabetically among thousands of other regular, non-controlled bottles.
Like the blood pressure meds, the cholesterol stuff.
Right. You eliminate that centralized target. You have to think about the psychology of a robbery. Time is the thief's absolute worst enemy.
Oh. So scattering them forces the thief to play this high-stakes, terrifying game of Where's Waldo, but with thousands of identical white bottles.
Yes. They'd have to just stand there, reading tiny little labels one by one. Security through obscurity.
That is brilliant. A brilliant logistical defense.
It really is. And the strictness for CCIA goes way beyond just how they're stored. For anyone prepping for the exam, you have to know this non-negotiable rule.
Lay it on us.
CCI prescriptions are never allowed to have refills. Zero. Ever.
Wow. Zero.
If a patient needs another month of Adderall, they have to go back to their prescriber and get a completely new prescription generated.
Right, because the DEA basically forces that continuous doctor-patient interaction to make sure those heavy hitters are still medically necessary.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving down the scale, we hit Schedule 3, or C3. This is where the federal grip loosens just a tiny bit, right?
Just a bit, yeah. The risk drops from severe down to moderate. So they have a moderate to low potential for physical dependence, but still a pretty high potential for psychological dependence. Got it. What are we looking at here?
Things like Tylenol combined with codeine, anabolic steroids like testosterone, and buprenorphine, which most people know by the brand name Suboxone.
Okay, Suboxone is a really interesting one to bring up because it's an opioid, right? Just like fentanyl.
Technically, yes.
Yet fentanyl is a C-tie heavy hitter and Suboxone is down here as a C3. Why the big difference in the scheduling?
That's a great question. It really comes down to the clinical intent and the actual mechanism of the drug.
Okay.
Fentanyl is a pure painkiller, and it has massive abuse potential. Buprenorphine, on the other hand, is fundamentally designed to actually treat opioid dependence.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's what we call a partial opioid agonist. So it binds to the receptors in the brain to stop the withdrawal symptoms, but it has this built-in ceiling effect.
A ceiling effect, meaning what? It stops working after a certain point?
Basically, yeah. It prevents that extreme high and, more importantly, the extreme respiratory depression that you get with full opioids. So the DEA recognizes that lower risk of abuse, and they schedule it as a C3. Okay, that context makes it so much easier to remember. Let's look at Schedule 4 next, CIV. A lot of texts casually refer to these as the chillers.
The chillers, yes. Because clinically, they are mostly anti-anxiety meds and sleep aids.
Right. So we're looking at alprazolam, which is Xanax, diazepam, which is Valium, and sleep aids like Zolpidem, which is Ambien.
And calling them the chillers can be a fun memory trick for the exam, but we do have to be really careful not to trivialize them.
Fair point.
They definitely have a lower abuse potential than CIV, but they are still central nervous system depressants. If you suppress the nervous system too much...
Especially if they mix it with alcohol or something.
Exactly. The patient stops breathing. So they absolutely still carry a risk of dependence, which is why they stay heavily regulated inside the vault.
That's a great point. The danger doesn't just poof disappear just because the schedule number got higher.
Exactly.
All right, finally, we hit the foundation of the list. Schedule 5, or CV.
The lowest abuse potential among the controlled substances. These are mostly preparations containing very limited quantities of specific narcotics.
Usually mixed with non-narcotic ingredients, right?
Right.
So the classic examples here are certain cough syrups that have small amounts of codeine, like Robitussin AC, or nerve pain meds like Lyrica.
Yep, lowest risk, but the security guards are still watching.
Always watching. Now, before we talk about the massive paper trail that's required to actually get these meds out of the vault, I know that staring down the barrel of pharmacy law and all these drug classes, and especially the math we are about to tackle, it can feel incredibly overwhelming.
Oh, it is a massive volume of information to try and synthesize. Memorizing the facts is one thing, but having the mental stamina to apply them under pressure, that's what the real exam and the real job demands.
That is exactly why I highly recommend checking out PTCBPrepGuide.com. It is built specifically for students who need to turn this absolute mountain of rules into second nature.
The practice is so necessary.
It really is. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, their exam simulator is an absolute game changer. You can sit down, you can take 3 full-length 90-question exams across 3 different difficulty levels.
Nice.
Yeah, and what makes it so valuable is that the scoring system perfectly mirrors the real PTCE. It ranges from 300 to 1600 with that crucial 1400 passing threshold, so you'll know exactly where your weak spots are before test day.
Practicing in a simulated environment is genuinely the best way to remove test anxiety. You aren't just learning the material, you're learning how the test actually asks the questions.
Exactly. And hey, if you need a break from standard testing, you absolutely have to try their drug card battle game.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It takes the grueling process of memorizing the top 200 drugs and turns it into this really fast-paced, gamified experience.
What?
You are matching brand names to generics, identifying indications, sorting drug classes, all against a ticking timer.
Oh, wow, that's intense.
It uses gamified repetition to just lock that knowledge into your brain. Go try the free demo on PTCBPrepGuide.com just to test your stamina. It's highly addictive, but, the good kind.
The good kind of addictive, right.
Yeah.
But testing your stamina is essential because once you actually step behind the counter, you have to apply these rules flawlessly every single time.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of dispensing. The paper trail. We know what's in the vault now. So how does a patient legally walk out of the pharmacy with it?
The foundation here is the DEA's zero tolerance rule for prescriptions.
Zero tolerance. Sounds intense.
It is. The DEA mandates a strict checklist of required info. If even a single element from that checklist is missing, the entire prescription is legally invalid.
Sure. So a technician can't dispense it and the pharmacist can't even verify it?
Nope. There is no, oh, I'll fill it in later, or I know what Dr. Smith meant. It's invalid.
Okay, so what are the 5 ironclad categories on this checklist?
First is patient information. That means their full legal name and their current residential address.
Okay, patient detail.
Second is prescriber information. The doctor's name, their practice address, and their unique DEA number, which we are going to analyze very closely in a second.
Patient details and prescriber details. Got it. What's next?
Third is the drug information. It has to explicitly state the drug name, the strength, the dosage form, meaning is it a tablet, capsule, liquid, to the total quantity and precise directions for use.
Makes sense.
Fourth is the date. It must be signed and dated on the exact day it was issued to the patient. Post-dating a controlled substance script is highly illegal.
Oh, really? Good to know. And the 5th category?
The signature. And this one frequently trips people up. The law specifies it must be a manual, wet signature, or a highly secure electronic signature.
Okay, wait. Why is the DEA so specific about the type of ink or the encryption? Like, what does that actually mean?
It all comes down to accountability. The manual signature rule means absolutely no rubber stamps are permitted.
No rubber stamps.
None. It does not matter if a physician is managing the busiest ER in the state, seeing 100 patients a shift. If they hand a patient a physical paper prescription for a controlled substance, they have to physically pick up a pen and sign it themselves. It's a binding legal contract.
Right, which totally stops a rogue employee from just, stealing a doctor's rubber stamp and printing their own heavy hitters.
Exactly.
And if it's electronic, it has to go through a DEA-approved 2-factor authenticated system, right? Like leaving a digital fingerprint.
Exactly. Now, let's go back to the second item on that checklist. The prescriber's DEA number.
Oh boy, here we go.
Every valid prescription requires this number, which means pharmacy technicians are basically the first line of defense in spotting a forgery.
This is where pharmacy law turns into a literal cryptography puzzle, because the DEA number isn't just like a random assortment of letters and numbers assigned to a doctor.
Not at all. It is a calculated algorithm.
Okay, so how does it work? Let's break it down.
The standard format is 2 letters followed by 7 numbers. So, for example, A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
The math relies entirely on those 7 digits.
Okay, let's actually work through this together. Let's pretend a patient just handed me a paper prescription. It looks a little suspicious. So I need to run the 7-step verification process on the DEA number you just mentioned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Perfect. Step 1. Identify your target. The 7th and final digit of the DEA number is the checksum. In our example, that final digit is a 7.
Okay, target is 7.
Your goal is to see if the first 6 numbers mathematically resolve to a number that ends in 7.
Got it. So I take the first 6 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Step 2. Add the first, third, and fifth digits together.
The odds. Okay, so that's 1 plus 3 plus 5, which gives me a sum of 9.
Step 3. Add the second, fourth, and sixth digits together.
The evens. So that's 2 plus 4 plus 6, and that gives me a sum of 12.
Step 4. Multiply that second sum by 2.
Okay, so I take my 12, I multiply it by 2, which gives me 24.
Step 5. Add your first result and your new multiplied result together into one final sum.
Right. My first sum was 9. My multiplied sum is 24. So 9 plus 24 is 33.
Step 6. Look at the last digit of your final sum.
The last digit of 33 is 3. But wait, our target 7th digit on the prescription was a 7.
Which means the math failed.
Ah.
The final digit of your sum must perfectly match the 7th digit of the DEA number. Because 3 does not equal 7, you are holding a forged prescription.
Wow. It's a secret mathematical handshake.
It really is.
A counterfeiter who's just trying to quickly scribble down 7 random digits. They have no idea that the numbers are actively interacting with each other.
Exactly.
But wait, why do we multiply the even numbers by 2? Why not just add all 6 of them up and be done with it?
It's a common algorithmic technique used to catch human transposition errors.
Transposition errors.
Yeah, like if a doctor accidentally writes a 21 instead of a 12, if you just added the numbers together, the total would be the exact same and the mistake would just slip right through.
Oh, that makes sense.
Multiplying alternating numbers by 2 changes the mathematical weight of the sequence. So any swapped digits immediately break the algorithm. It's actually similar to the Loon algorithm used to verify credit card numbers.
That underlying logic makes it so much more than just a random chore. It's such an elegant security system.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's assume the script passes. The checklist is flawless, there's no rubber stamps, and the mathematical handshake succeeds. We finally get to dispense the drug.
Finally.
But the rules of the vault dictate not just how we dispense, but how much and for how long.
Right. This brings us to the refill and transfer matrix. And understanding the life cycle of a prescription is heavily tested on the PTCE.
Heavily. So starting with C2, the heavy hitters, we established earlier that refills are strictly prohibited. 0 refills, ever.
Correct. Furthermore, while federal law technically places no expiration date on a CC script, virtually every state mandates that they expire within 6 to 12 months anyway.
And regarding transfers, like moving the script to another pharmacy.
A CC prescription can never be transferred. Never.
Okay, the matrix shifts a little bit when we look at the middle tiers, Schedule 3 and Schedule 4.
Right. For C3 and CIV medications, a patient is allowed a maximum of 5 refills within a 6-month period. But crucially, the prescription itself officially expires 6 months from the date it was originally written by the prescriber.
Regardless of how many refills they have left.
Exactly. If they haven't used them, they lose them.
And what if they go on vacation and need to move that script to a different pharmacy chain?
Federal law permits a C3 or CIV prescription to be transferred exactly one time.
One time only, and Schedule 5.
It follows a similar path. It often allows 5 refills in 6 months, though expiration dates can vary more heavily depending on state jurisdiction. But like the middle tiers, they are allowed a one-time transfer only.
Okay, let's bring all of this together with a real-world scenario. Let's say it's 4:55 p.m. on a Friday. A patient hands you a prescription for alprazolam.
Okay, so that's a Schedule 4 medication.
Right. The script calls for 90 tablets. The directions read, take 1 tablet 3 times a day. And the prescriber has authorized 5 refills.
A very standard legal CIV prescription profile.
So as the tech processing this, you have to run through a few operational questions instantly in your head. First, what is the day supply for a single fill?
You just calculate the total quantity divided by the daily usage. So 90 tablets total divided by 3 tablets a day equals a 30-day supply.
Perfect. Second, are the requested refills legal?
The prescriber requested 5 refills. Because alprazolam is a Schedule 4 drug, the legal federal maximum is 5 refills within 6 months. So yes, the request is valid.
Okay, third, and this is perhaps the most important for inventory tracking, what is the absolute total quantity of tablets that will leave the vault over the entire life of this prescription?
You have to separate the initial fill from the actual refills.
Yeah.
The patient receives 90 tablets on the very first fill today. Then they are authorized for 5 additional refills of 90 tablets each.
Okay.
5 multiplied by 90 is 450 tablets.
Yeah.
Add that 450 to the original 90 tablet fill, and you have a total lifetime quantity of 540 tablets.
540 tablets total. Now, what if the patient says, hey, I'm traveling for a while. Can I just pick up all 540 tablets today?
The pharmacy absolutely must refuse. Federal law dictates that dispensing has to align with the written day supply to manage the risk.
Right, the pacing.
Yes. Dispensing a 6-month supply of a controlled substance all at once violates the controlled pacing that these schedules are designed to enforce. Plus, the patient's insurance would immediately reject the claim anyway.
Huh. Very true. Walking through it calmly like this makes it seem pretty straightforward, but applying that matrix in real time with a line of people waiting, that is the true challenge of the profession.
It really is. It takes a lot of focus.
Well, we've covered incredible ground today in our deep dive into Chapter 2.2. To quickly wrap up this study session, the key to conquering this chapter is knowing your vault inside and out.
Inside and out.
Understand the inverse logic of Schedules 1 through 5. Know the massive clinical difference between an outlaw with 0 medical use and a CIV medication regulating the nervous system, and permanently etch those refill limits into your memory.
A hard 0 for CSI heavy hitters.
And a maximum of 5 refills for your CTHI and CIVs. You are all doing fantastic work mastering these deeply complex federal rules.
The rigor of this studying directly translates to your capability as a healthcare professional. You are literally learning how to build a safe environment.
Absolutely. Please be sure to subscribe to the PTCB Prep Guide channel for more deep dives into pharmacy law, and absolutely go to ptcbprepguide.com to practice what you've learned today using that exam simulator and the drug card battle.
Put that practice in.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Consider the heavy yet almost entirely invisible burden placed on the pharmacy team every single day. From the patient's perspective, they just see a plastic bottle being handed across a counter.
They don't see the vault.
Exactly. Underneath that incredibly simple transaction, every single pill dispensed requires a flawless, interconnected web of complex math, rigid legal verification, and strict protocol. It is all happening seamlessly, quietly behind the counter to keep the patient safe from harm and to keep the outlaws at bay.
It truly functions as an invisible shield for the community.
It really does. Keep up the phenomenal studying, everyone. We will see you next time.
Also, check out our other videos. To do that, click that channel logo in the middle of the screen to subscribe. Click on the cards to choose your next watch. Thank you again for watching, and good luck.